Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and Mishnah Yomi is continuing for the 11th of Tishrei, Motzei Yom Kippur. I'm hoping everyone had an inspirational, uplifting, and amazing experience on Yom Kippur. Recall from the very end of Tanit, we learned that Yom Kippur was one of the most joyous occasions for Am Yisrael of the entire year. It's a day of Megillah and Slicha, of forgiveness and reconnection with our spiritual nature. Now we are holding in Megillah, chapter 4, Mishnah 2. We've been talking about the Torah reading. We talked about Megillah reading, then got onto the subject of Torah readings. So Mishnah base, B'Rosh Chodoshim, on Rosh Chodeshes, Uv'cholo Shel Moed, and Chol Moed is the middle days of a holiday. So the first and the last days of a Yom Tov, and outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's the first 2 days, and the last 2 days are Yom Tov, as in the only malacha, the only creative acts involved are those for ochel nefesh. As we talked about in Mishnayot in Masechet Beitza, we talked a lot about ochel nefesh, that on Shabbat we don't do anything, but on Yom Tov we do what's needed for ochel nefesh, for food preparation. But the middle days, in between the first and last days, the middle days are chol hamoed. Chol means secular or normal, and moed means festival. So it's a festival, but it's sort of the secular, the part where you're allowed to drive and do, everyday electrical activities. So on these days, Rosh Chodesh and Chol Moed, Churin Arba, 4 people go up to read from the Torah. Ein pochtin mehem, no less than 4, and mosifin lehem, we don't add onto the 4. Ein maftirin b'navi, we don't read a haftarah in the Navi, because people still might have activities to do. On Rosh Chodesh, you're allowed to do malacha, to go to work. On Chol Moed, you're not really supposed to go to work unless it would be a financial loss. But there are certain activities that are allowed to do, even though it's the middle of the festival. Hapoteach v'chotem b'Torah, one who opens, as in the first reader, v'chotem, the one who seals, the last reader, mevarech lefaneha l'achareha. The first one makes the blessing before, the last one makes the blessing after. As we mentioned in yesterday's limud, this was the very ancient practice, and our sages instituted about 2,000 years ago, that everyone who makes an aliyah to the Torah makes both the blessing before and the blessing after, because sometimes people are going to come into shul in the middle of the Torah reading, or leave the shul in the middle of the Torah reading, even though it's not an ideal thing to do. And these people are coming in and out, they'll see the middle reader is reading the Torah without any blessings, and Torah needs a blessing. Ki hem chayenu v'orechimenu, the Torah is our life, it's the length of our days. So we've instituted making blessings before and after every reading. I mentioned in the WhatsApp message that you can listen to these blessings and say Amen and fulfill your count. It counts towards your 100 blessings a day, which sometimes is hard to do, especially in Yom Kippur, even on Shabbat when there's less blessings in the prayer service. It's a good thing to have to be paying attention and saying Amen to the blessings on the Torah and the Haftarah. Mishnah continues here, Zeh Klal, this is the general rule, Kol sheyesh bo musaf, any day that has a musaf prayer, Ve'eno Yom Tov, but it's not a Yom Tov. You can still do malacha. Korin Arba, you have 4 people go up and read from the Torah that day. B'Yom Tov, on a holiday, Chamisha, you have 5 aliyot to the Torah. B'Yom Kippurim, which is more sacred, there's more restrictions. Shisha, we have 6. B'Shabbat, Shiva. On Shabbos, we have 7. Ein Pochtinuhem, no less than these numbers of almost Sifinim, but you could add. On these days, it's forbidden to do malacha, to go to work. So we have time, if you want to add on more readers and honor more people with an aliyah to the Torah, that is allowed. A maftirin b'navi, and we add the haftarah in the navi. The Mepharshim explain this haftarah was instituted when reading from the Chumash, reading from the original Torah of Moshe, was banned for a time by anti-Semitic governments. And what we were allowed to do instead was to read from the Navi, from Ketuvim. So as a zecher, as a remembrance to reading from the Torah, we used to, thousands of years ago, to call people up to read from the Book of Prophets. And then when we were later allowed to read from the 5 books of Moses again, we kept the custom of having someone read from the prophets as the Haftarah. The Mishnah concludes, Hapoteach v'chotem b'Torah, the first reader and the last reader, mevarach lefanei l'racheha. They make the blessings, as we explained. Now everybody makes the blessings on the Torah. Great Mishnah Gimel. Ein porsin et Shema. We do not literally divide the Shema. This refers to publicly making the blessings of Kriyat Shema. Before we say Shema during the prayer service, there's blessings before and after. These blessings have Baruch Hu, they have Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. We're going to see this Mishnah is about what's called Devarim Shebekadusha, things that require 10 men to be present. Mishnah continues, Ein Ovrin Lifnei Hatev, we don't pass in front of the ark. That was the customary place for the prayer leader, the Chazon, the Shatz, to stand when he was reciting the prayers on behalf of the entire congregation. Ein Nosin et Kapehen, we don't lift the hands. This refers to the priests, the Kohanim, saying Birkat Kohanim, blessing the people. They would lift their hands when they did this. Ein Korin b'Torah, we don't read out of the Torah. Ein Maftirin b'Navi, or the Haftarah. Ein Osin Ma'amad u'Moshev, we don't do the standing and the sitting. This actually refers to taking a nifter, someone who just passed away, on the way to burial. They had a custom that if a minyan was present, they would stop and sit 7 times and say Hespedim, say short eulogies, and then stand up and go again towards the burial. Vein omrim birkat avelim, and we don't say the blessing, the customary blessing that mourners would say. We don't say this anymore. The tanchume avelim, and consolations for mourners. The custom is to make a row, and the people in mourning would pass through the row and receive consolations from the people attending the funeral. Birkat Chatanim is the blessing of the bride and groom after a wedding or during the Sheva Brachos, the festive meals following the wedding. Ve'ein mizamnin b'shem, we don't use the name of God in the zimun. Zimun is the invitation to recite the blessing after meals, to recite the grace. If you have 3 people, we say a zimun, as we learned in Brachot, in the Mishnah Brachot. But if you have 10, you use Hashem's name in this invitation. Pachot me'asara. So all of these things we do not do with less than 10 adult men over bar mitzvah. These are all davar shebekadusha, matters of sanctity, things that, a kaddish and a baruch hu and kadosh, 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 and reading from the Torah. All of these require 10 adult males to be present. The Gemara actually learns this concept from the Meraglim. The 10 spies were called mitocha eda. The word mitoch is used, eda is used. Even though there are 10 of them, they're called an eda, a community. So 10 men is the minimum to be considered a community for these sanctified matters. The Mishnah concludes, Bekarkot, for estimating the value of land, to sell land or buy land from the temple to redeem it. Tisha v'Kohen, 9, anybody counts for those 9, plus a Kohen. Adam kiyotzi behen, and estimating a person. What if a person says, I'm donating my market value to the temple? So what's his value? Well, we just see what he can do, what his skills and education are. There too, we need 9 men and a Kohen. It's a reminder that sometimes Kohanim, people who are involved in spiritual matters, sometimes have a different viewpoint about what's valuable to the community than other people do. So it's good to get perspective. Yashar koach and be well.